Hey everybody, welcome to a very late Fab Fit Friday. If nobody joins me, I completely understand. I got a little bit sidetracked today. Um, I had some Christmas cookies to deliver, and I got a few last minute Christmas ornament presents that I want to share with you. I also want to share with you my last minute Christmas gift that is my go-to, which works for anybody on my list, or almost anybody on my list, and you can make them in a very short amount of time. So I want to share that with you. Plus, I want to share with you my mother's amazing cookie mix recipe, like a homemade cookie mix, and two different cookies that you can make with the one homemade cookie mix. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And again, I apologize that I was so late in getting myself started here. So the first thing I want to do is let me share what I have on the table with me. So Wednesday I did cookies, and these are my amazing sugar cookies that I made with my granddaughter Cameron. So it was a lot of fun. And these cookies are really yummy. And I was like so excited. My daughter came and got some, and she's like, "Wow, these are better than I remember them." So the sugar cookies are always on my plate. Then I also make these. They're nut balls, and basically all this is the cookie mix with some confectioner's sugar and a little bit of vanilla and walnuts or pecans, and that's the cookie. You smush them up into balls, and you bake them, and they come out as sort of firm, crunchy, yummy cookies, and then you roll them in powdered sugar afterward. So those are my two of my favorite cookies, and I'm going to share with you here. I'm going to zoom in, so if you want to, you know, freeze your frame and copy this down. This is very, very simple. Basically, for the cookie mix, you use 6 cups of flour, a tablespoon of salt, and 2 1/3 cups of Crisco. And you just mix that up with a pastry, you know those little pastry knives? It's basically, it's got a handle, and then it's got like 6 blades, and you just keep chopping it up until you get like a rough, you know, like size of peas, Crisco, but it makes like a nice cookie mix. So this is the base for the 2 cookies I showed you. Then we have nut puffs, which the nut puffs are these. So again, you're just going to put 2 cups of the cookie mix with a 1/2 cup of confectioner's sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 3/4 of a cup of chopped pecans or walnuts. You press those into balls, and the dough is crumbly, so you really mold it into balls with your hands. And then you place them onto your cookie sheet that's lightly, ungreased. And then you bake until they're a light color at 350. I did them for about 15 minutes, and then you roll them in confectioner sugar. And then for the airy Christmas sugar cookies, you take 2 cups of cookie mix, a 1/4 cup of flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 of a cup of sugar. You mix that all up. Then you add an egg and a teaspoon of vanilla, and you mix that up. And for this, I just use my wooden spoon. I don't get my mixer out for this one. Then basically you just blend that well, roll it into an 1/8 inch thick, on your work surface, and then you cut out your cookies, sprinkle them with sugar, and bake them for about 10 minutes at 375. So those are my two of my favorite cookies. And basically, these are very precious to me because this is my mom's handwriting. There's my handwriting, so you can see the difference there. But I pull these out every year and make these cookies. So sugar cookies and nut balls. Then when I went to the printer, my friends at the printer um, got me a ornament for my tree, and it's a spool of thread wrapped with a tape measure with a little pair of scissors. Isn't that sweet? So I was super excited um, to hang that on my tree. I took it back off so I could show it to you. Oh, hello. Oh, you. Um, how are you? I don't know how to pronounce your first name. La, Illa. Cool. You can tell it's a good recipe by the stains on the card page. Merry Christmas. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you can tell I'm not really super neat, so I really try to, not dump anything on it. But these cards are probably 20 years old now when my mom wrote this out for me. And now the reason why these are so precious is my mom has Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and she wouldn't be able to write out any of this anymore. And we really have to save all her recipes or else we will lose them. So these are very precious to me. I keep them in a Ziploc bag when I'm not using them. Um, and here's the reason why I was late today. Well, first of all, I was thinking of a last minute gift, which I'll get to in a minute. But then the other thing is my daughter, Abby, is teaching her first year today. Not today, this year, from graduating from Eastern Connecticut State University. She's a third grade teacher, and they must have made Christmas balls in her class. So she made one for me. So there's her picture. Look how cute she is. There's Abby. And then on the other side, there's her fingerprint, and she made a little reindeer with her first year teaching, 2022-23. And then all the kids' names are on the confetti from her first class. So I got so silly when she gave this to me. She thought I didn't like it. She wanted to take it back. But really, this filled my heart with 100% joy. So that's going to become one of my favorite Christmas ornaments. Okay, so I got 2 new ornaments this year. So I wanted to share that with you. Okay, so now let's get on to the sewing. And this is why, this is for the people watching who are sitting there and they realize they need a gift for somebody and they don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to tell you, it's almost embarrassing for me, but I bought an actual pattern because I didn't want to think about sizing and I didn't want to think about shape. So I purchased this Simplicity pajama bottom pant pattern at Joann Fabrics. And this is a non-stretch pattern, so you need to be careful. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my nephews pull-on fleece pants because they live in them. So my sister's like, oh, that's all my boys wear is these pull-on, loungy pants when they're at home. So I'm going to make 2 pairs out of fleece for my nephews, and instead of figuring out one of my pants patterns that would work for that, I decided to just buy a pattern. So this is the first pattern I have purchased in years. I can't remember the last time I've actually worked with a different pattern. And if it wasn't like the day before Christmas Eve, I would have figured out the pants pattern myself. So I'm going to use this. And let me just stop. Mrs. D said, good evening, Jen. Sorry to hear about your mom. That's a beautiful Christmas decorations. Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining me too. I thought everybody is probably crazy running around today, me included. But then I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna come in and visit with you guys and spread a little fa la 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 la, because next week I cannot be here for FabFit Friday because I'm bringing my dad to a doctor's appointment. So I have driving duty, so I will not be here next Friday. So I didn't want to miss 2 Fridays in a row. So we're going to do this. And actually, this could be a fun thing if anyone who's new to sewing is watching. Let me explain about a commercial pattern. So the first thing is, if you're picking out a pattern for yourself, you want to make sure you get the right size grouping. So you can see here, this pattern includes extra small to extra large. So all the sizes are in here. But depending on the kind of pattern you're looking for, you want to make sure that your size range is in the envelope that you're purchasing. So that's my #1 recommendation if you're going to a big box store and you're purchasing a big box pattern. The next thing is on the back, you want to make sure you purchase the right amount of fabric. So I'm going to be making pants, and I needed, for the size I'm working with, my nephews are little string beans. I shouldn't say that because one's a junior in college and one's a junior in high school, but I don't think they watch my sewing videos, so it's okay. Um, but we're going with the hip size here, hip size 40. I'm guessing because they're so slender, they're going to be in that size, because the next size jumps up to 44. So I'm either going to make them a small or a medium. I'm still trying to decide, but I'm leaning towards a small. So I needed 2 1/8 to 2 3/8 yards of fleece. So that's the information you need to look for in the back. You need to look for the amount of fabric you have to buy, and then you want to also buy fabric that is recommended. So for example, if I was using a knit fabric to make these, they would come out huge because this pattern is designed for non-stretch fabric. So fleece is one of the recommended fabrics. So let's open this up and look at it. Okay, so you can see this is such a basic pattern. I totally could have made this myself, but again, I didn't want to spend time fussing around with finding my pattern, tracing the right size. So instead, what I'm going to do here is, oh, and the other thing is, even though my nephews are 4 years apart in age, they are very similar in size and height. And actually, I think the younger one is taller than the older one, but they're very, very similar. So I'm just going to make 2 of the same size, I believe. So on my table is a commercial pattern. I never thought I would see that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to find the back leg and the front leg. And now here's another tip. If you are working with cutting out something that's on fleece, that you're going to cut out something, you know, on thick fabric, you want to cut your tissue out before you cut it out of fabric, because if you try to cut through fabric and fleece, it's going to tear the tissue. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm just going to be down and dirty quick. Let me just look at this here. Okay, so I think I'm going to, just for safety reasons, I think I'm just going to go with the medium, because if they're a little bit loose, I think that that's okay. So what I'm going to do is, I'm literally just going to cut out the mediums. And like I said, this is down and dirty, last minute Christmas gift. So I'm going to just cut on the medium line. And then I'm going to cut out 2 pairs of these. Oh, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is, at the bottom, just for safety, I'm going to cut to the largest size, because I want to make sure it's long enough. So I'm going to add 1 inch to the length by going up 2 sizes just down here at the hem. All right, so I'm just going to cut out my medium here. And then I'm just going to keep these on file so like I can make them next year. Boys tend to stay. I think they've done a lot of their growing in terms of their height. They're at that age where they'll probably be that age for a while. Let me shut that light off there. That's better. Okay, so there's the front. And this little bit right here, I want to make sure I cut this off because this is extra. So let me cut that off. All right, so there's my front leg. Now I'm going to cut out my back leg. Extra piece in here. I just want to see what this is. Oh, this is the child size. I'm going to put this away in case I ever need to make a child size. I don't think so, but we'll see. Get that out of the way. So again, I'm going to cut out the medium. You can see this is just a very basic shape. Mrs. D says, if you cut on the medium now, what do you do if you need a larger the next time? Well, if I need a larger the next time, I can grade it up, because I do know how to grade patterns, so I can just add to the edges if I need to. And really, it's such a rare thing for me to use somebody else's pattern. Maybe next year I'll be more prepared and I will plan ahead so I don't have to go buy a pattern. Because really, this is borderline embarrassing for me that I'm using somebody else's pattern, to be honest with you. All right, so let me just cut out. So that is a good point, though. If you think you're going to be making these for multiple people, or you have different size ranges that you want to work with, I would definitely trace your size. But again, this is down and dirty. I don't have time for that. So literally, there's my back and there is my front. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move my cookies out of the way. I'm going to move the pattern out of the way. Now I'm guessing, based on the fact that my fleece is 60 inches wide, I should be able to get both pieces out with it folded in half. So this is the pill resistant fleece from Joann's, and I will tell you, many fabrics at Joann's don't hold up that well, but I will say that I always have good luck with their fleece. So some of their rayon printed fabrics have gotten pilly for me very quickly, or the print has faded. But anything I've ever made out of fleece at Joann's has always held up. So I do recommend, if you want to make a fleece project, getting fleece from Joann's is not a bad idea. Just trying to make it a little bit longer, and I don't want to cut anything that I might be in my way here. All right. Okay, so I am just going to lay this out here, and let's see how these pieces fit on the fabric. I'm guessing they're going to fit side by side, and I really didn't need to buy 2 half yards. Oh, but maybe they won't. All right, so see what's happening here. If I put the small right here, they do not fit side by side. So I'm glad I kind of went with the recommendation of getting the amount that they called for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out let's see. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold this up this way so I can work from the bottom end first. So I can work from the bottom end like this. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm not cutting anything on the end here, all these cords. Okay. Okay, so what I want to do is, I've got my fleece folded in half neatly. I'm going to put the back right here, like this. Okay, and then the front, I just want to see how the front can fit. So if I put, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that what I'm doing is going to fit before I cut anything out. That's why I'm checking here. So basically, I'm just going to put some pins in this so it does not move. So I know this needs to be like this. Then I'm going to fold this up, and I'm going to spread it this way. I don't want to haul off and cut anything until I'm sure It's the best way to make it fit. All right, so you can see that I'll be able to fit my, if I cut my back out like that, my front will fit like this. So we will be all set like that. So see, right there is my close point. So now that I know that's going to fit, I am going to cut this one out. And I'm going to make sure when I cut this out, I'm going to cut it as close to the salvage edges as I can get it, so I have as much room for the other leg as I can get. So I'm just going to slide it this way. Okay, and then I'm going to put some Hi Snug Bums Wallace. You can't hear anything? Not sure why. Also wishing you a wonderful holiday. Oh, I'm wishing you a wonderful holiday too. My audio is working. I have my little Rode mic right here. I'm sorry you can't hear. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this like this. Now, of course, you want your grain line to be parallel to the salvage edges. So I'm just going to check for that over here. So I'm going to measure here. That's, we'll say 6.5 inches. This one has to come out just a little bit. 6.5 inches. So I've got my pieces laying on grain. So now I can just cut out like this. So again, you can see I'm cutting right next to the tissue. If I tried to cut through the tissue, I would rip the pattern. And then I really wouldn't be able to use it again, even if it was the same size. So I'm just cutting right through like this. And then I'm going to cut across the bottom and up the side seam. Oops. Okay, and then I'm going to cut across the top over here, which I don't think you can see that. So I'm just going to cut across the top of my waist. Oops. And I did not do a good job. Hold on. I'm trying to cut it a weird. I'm going to slide this down so I can even this out here. All right, so I've already got my back legs cut out. I'm going to move that over there. Then I'm going to rearrange my fabric so I can cut out my front leg. To make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. All right, so here's my front leg. I am just going to line that up. I'm going to cut that out. So you can see that this is really going to make a nice, quick, no fuss, no muss gift. I have to tape back my, I started cutting the wrong line over here, but I'm just going to flatten it like that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to cut out my front. Now notice I have all of this extra nice fleece I can use to make a fleece hat, fleece mittens. Fleece makes nice gifts. A lot of different things you can do with fleece. All right. So that takes care of that. Get that out of the way. And then I think what I'm going to do is I have this one cut out. The other color I'm working with is red. This is going to be for Thomas. And again, I'm just going to fold it out. I'm going to cut them out quickly, and then I can do all the steps to make both pairs really fast. So again, I'm just going to lay this out. I'm going to cut it the exact same way because it worked the first time, it should work the second time. Oh, so I'm going to do the, there's my back. Okay, so again, I've got my back. That out if I can find my rotary cutter. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that out. Now, I'm a little nervous about this color choice because when I got it home, my daughters were like, ew, that's not a good color. So I'm hoping that the boys don't agree with my daughter's assessment of the color I picked. I don't know, I kind of felt red would be a good color. But you know me, I'm mostly about wearing black and, you know, all that stuff too, but okay, so all I need to do is cut over here at the top. Okay, so my back is cut out. And then let's get that front cut out, and then we can start putting them together. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to cut out this second leg. Like this, and it fits almost exactly the same. This one is a little bit closer for some reason, but I think we can make it work. Okay, so I'm going to cut across the bottom first. So if you buy a universal pattern, meaning it's got men and women sizing, then you can really get a lot of use out of it because, you know, you can make it for, you can make, you know, if your family is into matching pajama pants for the holidays, you can make everybody a matching you know, something matching, or you could make different colors. But I have to say that out of all my quick sews, this being one of them, it's a tried and true gift because I've gotten reports back from my sister that, you know, they wear these to death, so that's how I know this will work out. Okay. Now I've got all my pieces cut out. So really all I have to do now is sew these together. So it's so quick and easy. So I'm just going to keep this pattern. I'm just going to fold this up and I'm going to put it back in the package so I have it if I need it for next year. But like I said, I'm really almost embarrassed that I'm using a commercial pattern for something this simple. Anyway, so I'm just going to fold that up so it doesn't get lost. And I'm going to put it right back in the envelope along with the kid sizes. This is the little kid sizing here. I'm going to put that back in the envelope just in case. All right, so that takes care of that. Now, basically, to put these together, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew up tubes and then I'm going to sew the crotch. And I'm going to probably sew it on my serger. So like I said, this is going to be quick and easy. Okay, so the easiest way to get these organized is I'm going to put right side face up for my backs. So here's my back. Okay, and then I'm going to put a front right sides together with it. Make sure with this fleece from Joann's, the one thing is you want to make sure you use the right side on the right side because it's a lot nicer looking than the inside. So I'm just going to clip them with my Wonder Clips. I'm going to put one at the top and one at the bottom. And I'll just put maybe one in the middle. And then I think because Wonder Clips don't fall apart, I can just clip everything. So basically, I'm just going to clip my inseams for the second leg together, and then I'm going to clip my side seams. So this is almost like a production sewing situation here where I need to get 2 pairs done, and I need to get 2 pairs done kind of quickly, so I'm going to basically just clip all the edges together. This is where Wonder Clips are your friend because Wonder Clips do not fall off. I'm literally just going to use 6 clips per leg, 3 on each side. Inseam and side seam gets 3 clips each. And then I'm going to fold them up and put them over here in a pile. Oh, you know what I just thought of? Thomas plays soccer, so maybe I can put his number, I can embroider his number on the front, like hip, maybe. All right, so that one's all set. Let me just prep this gray pair. Again, I'm going to put right sides face up. Like this. And then I'm going to put the fronts together. Like this. So you can see this is clearly something you can do very quickly. Like I'm literally busting out 2 pairs. Okay. I like having everything nice and organized because then it just makes the rest easier. So like doing all this prep on both pairs, kind of like a production sewing kind of a thing, you know, I think it makes it go by quicker, or I think it's more efficient sewing if you do all the steps, all the same steps all at the same time. So like do all your cutting and pinning and then do your sewing. Okay. All right, so let me see here. Okay, so I've got all of my pieces put together. Let's stop in and see Super Seamstress Sewing Show, Bakersfield, California. Welcome. You love to sew. You love sewing. Yay, I love sewing too. All right, so we are going to be working with red and gray fleece. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use all gray thread because gray goes with everything. So basically in my serger right now I have 2 blues and 2 grays. I'm going to find either black or gray for my needles. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Here's one of the things about sewing fleece on your serger can get kind of bulky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test a a flat lock stitch, and I'm going to see how that works. Because a flat lock stitch will actually stitch flat. It slides flat and it might be less bulky. So I'm going to try that actually. I need like a dark gray. I don't know what happened to all of my, I'm just going to use this color. I'm just going to use, where's all my black? Hold on one second, I'm sorry. All right, I'm going to use gray for the loopers, and I'm going to use black for the needle. So like if you want the reverse flat lock to show, you put that color in your needle. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lower this a little bit more so I can zoom in a little bit more. So basically I'm going to set my serger up for a 3-thread wide flat lock stitch. So basically we are going to be using the left needle only. So I'm going to remove my right needle. Oops. I'm getting a little bit stuck here. Let me get this unstuck. Okay, so I'm going to take out that needle. I'm also going to take out those threads. It's very important, if you're not using a thread, take it out of the take it out off the machine so it doesn't whatchamajigger. And I'm just going to switch myself over to here so I'm not in the way. There. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take out the blue. And I'm going to put black in my needle. Now the funny thing about a flat lock stitch is you want the upper looper and the needle thread to be sort of more tight tension wise, and you want the lower looper to be looser, and that's what allows it to slide. So I'm literally going to put my thread for my needle, I'm going to thread it into the upper looper path, because on my baby lock I don't have tension settings. So I'm going to use stitch D, which is the rolled hem stitch, which will tighten the D tightens the upper looper. So I'm putting both the needle and the upper looper thread in a tighter situation, and then I'm putting the lower looper, I'm sorry, in a looser situation, loose, and then the lower looper is in a tighter situation, like for a rolled hem. So let me just stop here. Your mirror idea is really cool. I'll have to try that when I get my videos off the ground, if I ever can. I'm not using a mirror. If you're thinking of starting to shoot video tutorials, I'll tell you that what I have is OBS, Open Broadcast Software. It's a free software that you can use to run your you know, you can run all your cameras through it. So I have multicam, so I don't have a mirror. Uh-oh, now I've made a mess with my threading. All right, wait a minute. All right, I'm making a mess here. Hold on. Let me just get this all straightened out here. It's really important when you're serging that your threads are not tangled up. So I'm just going to make sure those are good. And then I'm going to redo my needle here since I got it all screwed up the first time. Okay, so, all right, so I've got my needle threaded, and I am going to test this. Whenever you do anything on the serger, you want to test and see how it's going to work. So I'm going to use a scrap, and I have two on the floor that are very handy right here. Hi, Diane. Oh, I got a bunch of people. Hi, Judy. Welcome. Frosting cookies during the winter storm in Naples, New York. Never did a flat lock stitch. Oh, cool. I'm going to show you. And if you missed the beginning of this episode, I shared my mom's homemade cookie mix recipe with the sugar cookies and the nut balls you can make from it. So if you rewind later, you can catch that on the replay. Hi, Diane Bacon, coming in late. Merry Christmas. Well, guess what, Diane? I started this over an hour late. Like, I almost didn't even get on today. I had so much stuff going on, but I really wanted to get in here and spend some time with you guys and share, like, my, you know, my go-to last minute Christmas gifts. You can see here I'm making 2 pairs of fleece pull-on pants for my nephews. So I've put my fabric right sides together, and I'm just going to stitch a sample and see how it comes out. so from the right side, let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit so you can see. Hold on. Okay, so from the right side, it kind of looks like a 3-thread, except notice on the back, so this is the front, right? This is the back, the underside. Notice you don't see any of the gray lower looper thread really. You see the black needle thread mostly. Okay, that's because that's looser. Watch what happens when I pull it open. So when I pull this open, you're not going to be able to see the traditional ladders here as clearly as you can if you weren't working with something that has a nap. However, let me just lighten this up. I'm going to blow it out and then make it a little bit lighter because I want to get it as clear as you can see here. So you can almost see the ladders. But what I want to show you is, look how flat that seam is compared to a traditional serged seam where you have the bulky seam allowances, right? So this just makes a nicer, flatter seam when you're working with fleece. Okay, so that's why I'm going to use the flat lock stitch. Okay, so all it is, to review, is a 3-thread wide for a thick fabric like this, and you're going to set your needle and your upper looper to a very low tension, like 1, you know, try that. And then your upper looper, no, I'm sorry, your lower looper is going to be the tight one. So the upper looper and the needle are very loose, so it slides flat. So you can see here, see how flat that is? Let me put it this way so you can see. See, like it's just really laying nice and flat. All right, so now that I know that that stitch is going to work, I am going to stitch my pants. And here's the cool thing, because they're all cut out, all I have to do is run, just make it a little bit bigger and a little, maybe a little, there, that's probably better now. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to sew all of our side and inseams. Okay, so basically I'm just going to start with one pair here. Oh, excuse me. And I'm going to get the fabric under there. You know, I'm literally just going to skim off a little bit. So you can see how quick this is going to go together. Okay, so literally right now I am stitching the side seam. Then I'm gonna, oh, that was actually the inseam. All right, now I'm gonna stitch the side seam of this leg. This is literally speed sewing. So I'm going to do the red ones off camera. I'm not going to make you watch me stitch out 2 entire pairs. Let me just do 1 pair on camera here, and then I'll finish the other pair after. I just want to show you how quick they go together. So I think the wind, and the cold, we're in Connecticut and I can hear the wind whipping outside. I think the Arctic side of our storm is coming. We had rain and wind with 50 degrees all night long, which was so festive. And I actually went hiking this morning. I have never seen so many fallen trees in my entire life. Hi, Lazarus, welcome. Oops. All right, so let me just finish this up. Okay, and then let me do the side seam of the front leg, and then we're going to do the crotch next. Okay. Let's take a look and see what we have here. Okay, now you can see my differential feed was set on neutral, and I think you can see here that my seam is laying nice and flat. Okay, so I didn't need differential feed because there's no stretch in the vertical direction of these. So I'm going to open the leg. I just want to show you here. I'm going to just pull the seam to get it to lay flat. And I think this is going to be a far more comfortable seam than if I had just sewn with a traditional 4-thread safety stitch. But you can see I can get that to lay nice and flat. Okay, so from the inside, see how that's laying nice and flat versus poking out? Oh, Lazarus is saying, happy holidays, great gift idea. I was wondering if the flat lock seam would be strong enough for the crotch. All right, so I am pulling this with all my muscle. You can see it's a very strong stitch, but here's what I recommend. Use the 3-thread wide. Don't use the 3-thread narrow. The 3-thread narrow sometimes pulls apart more easily because there isn't as much of an allowance, you know, in the looper threads. But you can see here, this is really going to be nice. And then guess what? For the hem, I'm going to use the same stitch. I'm going to use the blind hem to hem these, and it comes out so nice. And again, it lays flat. It looks professionally finished. So you can see that's kind of a neat detail. I think you can see that, right? Kind of cool. So I'm just going to pull them. I'm not going to spend a ton of time pulling it, but you really do need to spend time, you know, pulling the entire seam open so it lays flat. But you can see I'm really tugging on this. So I have one of my techniques when I taught my flat lock skirt class was my not so blind hem. So what I did was I did a decorative blind hem using the flat lock stitch, so you saw the ladders around the hem as sort of a decorative look. On this fleece, you can see it's going to be pretty blind because the threads sink into the nap. I'm just going to turn this inside out so you can see how nice and flat. So see how nice and flat that is versus a bulky 4-thread. So let me just pull this one apart. And actually, we'll pull this one from this side so you can see. See, it's just going to lay nice and flat. So see the difference between before I pull it and then after I pull it. So see how it lays flat? See how nice and flat that lays after you pull it. So very happy with the blind hem idea. And I think you can see that it's strong enough. The red ones, this will show even more because I've got okay. So while I have it like this, I think what I'm going to do, why don't I just show you the hem here. So the hem is going to be, I'm just going to trim my tails. So we're going to fold the hem up like this. So I'm going to give it, let's say, oh, this is a little uneven. I'm just going to trim that so it's even. Oh my God, I wonder if you guys can hear the wind whipping outside my window. Okay, so let's do about an inch like this. So what I'm going to do, well, maybe a little bit more, like, yeah, maybe like an inch and almost an inch and a quarter. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to need to use my regular pins, not my Wonder Clips for this. So we're going to put this, when we go to sew this, we're going to flip all the rest of the pants down like this, and we're going to create a ledge right there. That's what we're going to stitch on. So I'm going to be stitching in this direction here, like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pin around in a circle that width. So I'm just going to go around and make sure that's evenly turned up. Like this. Okay, I'm just putting like 4 or 5 pins. I just want to make sure it's even all the way around. This is like a no fuss and muss hem. All right, so see how I've got it pinned, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back on itself where the pins are, and I'm going to create about a 1/4 inch of a lip like that. Let me just make sure that's nice and sharp. Okay, so I'm just going to literally where the pin is, I'm just going to take the pin out and pin it to each other like this. Okay, hold on one second. I think I hear something. Hold on. I thought. All right, I'm sorry. Sometimes my daughter leaves the faucet running, but I think she's in there taking a shower. So I just for a second there, I thought the water was dripping needlessly. All right, so see how I'm just pinning it with a lip here? Pinning it with a lip. Okay, and then I'm just going to pin up the next leg, and I'm going to just hem them. I might as well hem them while I'm down here, right? So there is one prepped. And if you need to see it again, first step, I'm just going to trim my tails on my seams. Then I'm going to turn this up about, you know, the 1.25 inches. I have measure vision. I don't know if you're aware of that. You may have measure vision too. Measure vision is when you've been sewing for such a long time, you can accurately identify measurements down to like a 1/16 of an inch. So for a lot of these things, I don't actually have to measure because I can see that it's the right amount. Okay, so I've got that pinned the first step. Then again, I'm going to turn it up on itself, and I'm going to create that lip. Now the pins have to go in this direction this time. All right, so see how we have the little lip all the way around. So now watch how fast I can hem these pants. Now I haven't sewn the crotch yet, but I figured while I was down here I can just do the hems. That's a little non-traditional in order, but I figured while I'm down here I might as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm just going to put the pants underneath the presser foot. I'm going to put them starting, I'm going to stop and start at the crotch, at the inseam. So there's my inseam. And basically now, I want to sew inside the circle, so I'm going to turn these right side out. Okay, so then I can start at the inseam, just right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hem underneath the presser foot so that I can see that I'm catching. I want to be able to catch the fold here and trim a little of this off. So in order to get that starting in a nice way, I'm going to pull my thread away from the fabric to let it relax. I want to make sure that's under there right. And I also want to make sure that I'm catching the folded edge. And I bet you're wondering, without using a blind hem foot, how I'm going to know that I'm catching it. Well, I have a tip for you. These ridges here, let me just zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. See how there's ridges on the front of my presser foot? Let me just get this in a better angle here. Sorry, I want to, there we go. So see how there's ridges in the front of my presser foot? The second ridge from the right is where my needle is going to hit. So I want to put the fold right, you know, so that the needle is going to sew on it right where that second ridge is. So basically, again, this is fleece, so I don't need to be too fancy about this. So I'm going to, where's my little, looking for my, oh, my mom's tomato so I can put the pins back. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start stitching here. And I'm going to make my stitch length really big. I'm going to make it 4 because we don't need a lot of stitches in the hem to hold it. Okay, so I want to make sure I am catching that the fold in the fabric there, and I'm trimming off the little bit of the ledge. Now it's going to be a little bulky across the seam, so as I come up to the seam, I'm going to raise the pressure foot, I'm going to put it back down. All right, and then again, I want to make sure sewing nicely all the way around. Now when I get to my start point right here, I'm going to cut off my tail, and then I'm going to put my knife down. I'm going to overlap my start point. Once I've overlapped my start point, I'm going to lift my presser foot, lift the needle, push everything off, and then chain off. All right, so let me show you how this is going to look now. So see, from the inside, see how nice that looks? It looks like you finished it exactly on the edge, and from the outside, it makes little, I want to say like little blind hem lines, but because we're working with fleece, you're really not going to see them. So see how, I mean, you can see them a little bit, but it makes a nice flat finish. Oh, you know what? I realized, right, this is just between you and me. I realized when I was almost done stitching that leg that I left my presser foot up. So some of my tension is really funky. I might have to take this one out. Let me do the other leg again, the proper way to show you. All right, I just wanted to see how it was going to look with the presser foot up that whole time. So let me get it in here and do it again. And this time, it's really important. I don't know if you've ever heard this tip before, but it's really important to put your presser foot down so it's up and then it's down. Notice on fleece, it's really hard to see whether it's up or down sometimes. So I just realized it like at the very end, it was up the whole time, so there's no tension on anything. So again, I'm over here. I want to make sure that's going to lay nice and flat, so I lifted it up and put it back down. Okay, so let's do it this way. I think this one's going to come out better. I might have to take that other one out and do it again. So another tip for doing fast holiday sewing is to take your time and really make sure, you know, pay attention to all your little details. Because sometimes rushing makes waste. Haste makes waste. That happens sometimes. All right, this one's going to come out better, you'll see. Again, I'm going to cut my tail off. Put my knife down, overlap my start point, lift my needle, lift my presser foot, push everything back, chain off. The reason why I did that is so I have a nice start-stop point. So see how nice that start-stop point is? And if I pull this one, you're going to see this one is going to actually look the way it's supposed to look. See how you can see the crease all the way around? Because I actually had my presser foot down. But you can see this makes a really nice hem in a second. See how nice that is? See? So I'm going to have to fix the other one. I'm not going to torture you. I can fix it after. But the next step in this process is I'm going to turn one leg inside out, and I'm going to put the right side out leg into the inside out leg to do the crotch. And again, it's going to be the same blind hem stitch. So here's my inside out one. Here's my right side out one. I've got my crotch right here. Let me just make this bigger so you can see. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my inseam all the way like this, and I'm going to put it into my other pant leg. Okay, because what I want to do now is match up my crotch. So here is my inseam. Here's my crotch. And for this I can go back to using the Wonder Clips. So I'm just going to clip the top here. I'm going to clip the inseam here. And then I'm going to do the opposite crotch. This is the back, I think. But you can see, I mean, I've only been working on this for a short amount of time, and I've cut out 2 pairs. I mean, these are almost done. And I think they're going to be really nice because, again, I'm doing the flat lock stitch. Okay, so here we are. I'm just going to stitch the flat lock down the crotch. Now also you have to remember that these are loose fitting pajama pants too. Oh, Mrs. D is asking me, is that the blind hem on the serger? Yes, it was. What I did was the blind hem. Now if you want it to be a true blind hem, you can actually get a blind hem foot for your serger. And it has a guide like the sewing machine versions to keep your fold honest. All right, so I'm just gonna do my crotch here. But so you can see how nice and flat this is laying compared to how it would be bumped up if I had a traditional 4-thread stitch here. So I'm going to let it relax as I go over it. You know, lift your presser foot up, let it relax, put it back down. Okay. My presser foot's not working. My foot control is... Look at... Well, that's a problem. My foot control stopped working. Oh no! Wow. Notice it says Juki because the Baby Lock foot control died a long time ago. Oh, maybe it's because the door's not shut all the way. Please let that be the reason. Oh, crisis averted. All right, so if you open your doors, your foot control doesn't work. I almost thought I was going to be in a disaster. All right, now look at how exciting this is. No, no, it didn't overheat. No, the door was open. All right, so let's look at our crotch here. I know this is the only place you can say this, and so see, like, I can pull this nice and flat. See how nice that is? All right, so now we've got the whole thing put together. So let's look at these pants. Okay. All right, so just pulling my flat lock flat. All right, so here is the top of the pants. And you can see, look how nice I matched my, look how nice my crotch seam matches up. And look at how nice and flat that is compared to a 4-thread. So I'm really pleased with the way that looks. All right, so now to finish these puppies up, what we're going to do is we're going to put an elastic waist on here, and I'm going to use the what do I want to say? The quick and easy Serger technique. So I've got, this is my cut through sew through elastic. Here's why I love my cut through sew through elastic. Let me show you this. All right, so I'm going to move my pants out of the way for a second. And I'm going to cut a piece that I think, all right, so I mentioned that these boys are pretty skinny. So we need to take this in a little bit. So I'm going to cut it here for a second. And what I'm going to do, I think, all right, let me just go like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up. Now, I obviously have a much bigger waist, I think, than my nephews do, but I'm going to wrap this around. So I think if I use my smallest measurement here, that's going to be closer to where their waist is. So I'm going to have to trim this a little bit. All right, let me just show you what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to look at the pants. Oh, first what I'm going to do is this elastic, I love this elastic because I can cut it any width. So I'm going to cut it. Oh, this one's only 1.5 inches. Hold on one second. I want to use my 2-inch. Is that 1.5 inches too, or 1.5 inches? Do I have 2-inch? Hold on. This is all 1.5 inches, so I don't think I'm gonna cut it in half. Some of my elastic is 2 inches, and you can actually cut it any width you want, but I'm gonna keep it 1.5 inches, I think, for a waist. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is, let's look at this. I don't want a giant amount of gathers. Like, so see how much smaller this elastic is than this? I think what I'm going to do, let me just get, I almost feel like, well, they're supposed to be loose. Let's just try it and see. All right, so I have my machine set up for that flat lock. Here's another benefit to that stitch when you're working with an elastic waist. I can sew my elastic together into a circle, and I can also slide it flat. So watch this. So see, here's my elastic. You know how if you serge elastic together, it makes a really bulky seam? But notice if I use the flat lock stitch, see, it lays flat, see? So it's even really good for sewing elastic on. So what I'm going to do now is, let's find... No, my phone is, I'm not, my watch wanted me to talk. All right, so, okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically find my quarters. So there's my seam right here. So this is going to be a quarter. Then I'm going to put my seam and my pin together to find my other quarters, or the other quarters. Okay. The other quarters. I'm just marking my my elastic into quarters. So you can see now I've got this, the center back seam is here, and then I've got my quarters marked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pants and I'm going to line up the elastic with the center back seam. All right, so this is actually the back over here. So I'm going to put this, you're going to put this wrong side against the wrong side of your pants like this. Okay, so there's my center back. I'm going to clip it. I'm also going to cut off this tail. Then I'm going to come around to the front and I'm going to line this pin up with the front like this. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the other quarters with the side seams like this. Like this. And I'm going to cut off this tail just because it bugs me. And then I'm going to cut off this one and match this up. All right, so now we've got I've got it marked on my quarters, and you can see I can easily stretch that. So there's a quarter, but see how easy it fits in? I think we'll be okay. So here's what we're going to do. Now, I don't want to use a flat lock for this part because we're not going to spread it open. So I'm just going to, what I'm going to do is, the easy thing here is we're going to be stitching down the elastic twice. So I'm, just to keep it simple, I am going to clear my threads, meaning I'm going to get them untangled from underneath. So I can then take out my needle thread. And I'm just going to thread it in its regular path. And then I'm just going to use a 3-thread wide to sew the elastic on. Traditionally, I would use a 4-thread, but in the big scheme of things, this is going to be fine. So you can see it was really smart of me to hem my pants before I got to this step because we're switching stitches now. So let me just thread this. Okay. Okay. All right, and so now I'm going to just switch my stitch selector to A, so it's on a traditional, just 3-thread wide. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my fleece on the underside. I'm going to line up my fabric and my waistline like this. elastic face up. Okay, and then I'm just going to stretch the elastic to match the fabric on each quarter. And I'm just going to stitch it like this. And then I'm just going to do each quarter like that separately. So I'm stretching, see, I'm stretching until the elastic matches the fabric. Like this. Okay, let me just do this one. So again, this is a 3-thread wide. You'll see why it doesn't matter in a minute. Okay, when I get to the start point, I'm going to put my knife down. I'm going to overlap. Then I'm going to lift up my needle, push it back, and chain off. Okay. All right, so let's see what we have now. We have our elastic is really nicely attached. See? So I have all these really nice soft gathers. The next step is I'm going to fold the elastic down to the inside like this. So see how that's going to look like that. And I'm going to use regular pins now. And I'm pinning right in the, right in the serge seam. But notice when I pin, I'm stretching it out this way, making sure the fleece is wrapped securely around the elastic, and then pinning it. And you'll notice I'm going to use a little bit more pins than I've used for other parts of this project because I want to make sure I'm holding it nicely. And you can see this is just going to be a nice cozy pair of pants. And since the Arctic blast is coming to Connecticut, it's the perfect time for these. Christmas Eve. Okay, so see what I'm doing? I'm just stretching it first this way and then making sure the fleece is securely wrapped around the elastic. You don't want extra fabric around the elastic because it'll make an unattractive ruffle. So see, we've got... Also, I just want to thank anyone who's watching me today. Thank you so much for spending time during this busy holiday season to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. All right, so here we go. Okay, so you can see I'm working my way around. I'm almost done. Like this. And then the last step I'm going to do on my traditional sewing machine. And that's why it doesn't matter that I only used a 3-thread for to sew the elastic on, because it's going to get securely attached. And literally this Christmas present is going to be done in 2 minutes. We are almost done. Oh, this pin came out. Let me just fix this pin right here. Okay, so let me get my sewing machine over here. that back out of the way. Of course. All right, so my sewing machine still has the light gray that I was using when I was working on my pants, so I'm going to have to quickly switch to black thread. Okay, where's my power cord? So literally we're going to be done like in literally 2 minutes, so all right. I have a whole bunch of pre-wound black bobbins, so it'll be really quick. A quick presto changeo here. Just gonna leave this over here. I'm just gonna thread my machine. And I'm just gonna put this bobbin in there. If I can find the end. Okay. All right, so I am going to, oops. Okay, the other thing is, can I use a straight stitch? I'm going to use a triple zigzag to sew this on, so I have to also change my plate and my foot. Let me see here. Okay. So I'm just going to do this. And I'm just going to put this foot on. So this is a built-in walking foot. This this Janome 6700P is an amazing machine. It really does such a nice job. Okay, so I'm going to go to my triple zigzag stitch. That's the stitch that the zigzag takes 3 stitches in each direction. So it goes stitch, 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 stitch. And we're going to use that to attach the elastic on permanently. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to put the fabric underneath. We'll start at either the center back or the center front. I'm not sure which one this is, but it really doesn't matter. I'm going to put the fabric underneath my presser foot like this. And I'm going to stitch across the entire serged edge, my triple zigzag. Now here's the trick with this though. You can't pull it from behind or stop it from going through, because your zigs and zags will become uneven. So you have to sort of taut sew, meaning you have to allow the fabric to feed, but you also have to keep it stretched. So I'm just going to start stitching here. So see what I'm doing is I'm literally triple zigzagging right over the serged edge. And I'm just going to work a little bit at a time, and as I go, I'm also pulling it here to make sure this fabric is wrapped around the elastic. Just working little bits at a time. You can see I'm just working a little bit at a time. forgot to tell you, I don't even know if anyone's watching me. I've been on here for a long time. I'm so sorry. But the other thing about working with fleeces, you don't need to pre-wash it. So that also contributes to the speed of this project. I mean, I will wash it before I give it to them. You know, after I finish them, I'm going to wash them, but fleece doesn't shrink, so that's a plus. All right, I'm almost done, and then these are all done. I'm like super excited. Okay, I literally just have this last 6 inches to go. Okay, I don't want to stitch over my tail, so I'm moving that out of the way. Okay. I overlapped my start point, and here we have, look how nice that looks. Here we have it. All right, so that's the finished waistband. I really hope that's not going to be too big. I think that's going to be okay. So there you go. Finished waistband and finished hem. Completely finished. So that would be my go-to project for last minute Christmas gifts are either, I don't need that anymore, either, you know, pull on fleece, pull on flannel, really quick, nice, easy project. So I hope you guys enjoyed my little pre-Christmas late FabFit Friday. Remember, next week I'm not going to be here because I'm taking my dad to the doctor. So I will see you sometime either a little bit before that or a little bit after that, but I will be continuing my Fit Tip Tuesdays, and I'm going to get my last newsletter for the year out telling you guys what I'm teaching in January. So it's going to be a lot of fun coming your way. I'm super excited. So thank you guys so much for watching me. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Celebrate Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you again really soon.